Fun fact, this is the first Grand Prix since Austria 2018 that Mercedes have not scored any points. Hello, how are you? Are you well? Good. I had no intention of recording a podcast today, but I've just finished the Azerbaijan Grand Prix and it was a bit too crazy and exciting to pass up having a little chin wag about it. If you haven't watched it, obviously turn off now. Spoiler alert, if you've no interest in Formula 1, nice talking to you. I'll chat to you again soon. But if you would like to listen to some of my reaction to the race that just occurred, sit tight and listen to this. I suppose we'll call this a bonus episode. I won't put this as the regular feed of episodes because it's only going to be about Formula 1 and the race that just occurred. So, quick rundown of what happened. Charles Leclerc started on pole with Lewis Hamilton right behind him after a surprise second place in qualifying, being off the pace all weekend. The few changes they made seemed to work for them. Championship leader Max Verstappen was third. Fourth was supposed to be Lando Norris, but fourth was Sergio Perez, I think. Anyway, let's forget about the grid for a moment. So the race started and the first lap was pretty clean, which is pretty surprising for Baku because it being a street circuit and it being on the calendar since 2016, bar the first race there, they've always been a bit chaotic. A few smashes into walls and the odd safety car here and there. But it started off pretty clean for the first few laps. Charles Leclerc kept the lead, but eventually he was pounced on by Lewis Hamilton, who had incredible speed in the straight with the toe and with the DRS system. And I think with lap 3 or 4, he managed to get by Leclerc, as did then Verstappen and Perez, and then he started to drift. Leclerc started to drift back. And that's how it was going then until the first pit stops. Mercedes came in first with Lewis Hamilton, and then Red Bull managed to do the undercut with, the overcut even, with Verstappen and Perez, who both managed to jump Lewis Hamilton after the pit stops. Now, Lewis had a slow stop because they had to wait for, I think it was possibly the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly coming into the pits. So his pit stop was over 4 seconds, which definitely was a factor in him losing the race lead. But then that's how it was for the next many laps, dozens of laps. Sebastian Vettel stayed out, having started, technically starting 11th, but he jumped up a place because Lando Norris had a 3-place grid penalty. Or did he? No, I think Norris qualified 6th and he got a 3-place grid penalty, so 6, 7, 8, 9. So Vettel started 11th, so he had free choice of tyres, but he still started on the soft tyre, but he pitted much later. So by the time all the pit stops had settled down, him being the only person who hadn't pitted, Sebastian Vettel saw himself in the lead. And then eventually he pitted, but he managed then to get his car back up he managed to jump Yuki Tsunoda and came out in 7th. And blah, 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 yada. This, that and the other was happening. And then Lance Stroll, who was running a similar strategy, going deep on the soft tyres, and then going to pit late and see what happened. He had a left rear tyre failure, which put the car into the wall and brought out the safety car, which settled things down a bit. But then, of course, we had a race restart. And with the Red Bulls first, second, and Lewis Hamilton third, they dealt with the restart very, very well. The Red Bulls, Max kept it until the very last second to get the race restarted, and he managed to hold the lead, and then Perez managed to keep Hamilton behind. As much as Hamilton was putting the pressure on him down the straight, in the middle sector the Red Bulls had enough mechanical grip to keep Lewis Hamilton just far enough behind that he wasn't able to overtake. And that kind of looked like how the race was really going to pan out. At this point, Sebastian Vettel got himself up to 4th, which was looking good for Aston Martin. And it was going to be a good day at the office for Red Bull. A 1-2 would have been beautiful. Max Verstappen increases his lead in the championship, and everything is rosy. But then with 3 laps to go, 3 or 4 laps to go. Just like Lance Stroll, Max Verstappen had a left rear tyre failure while leading the race, which is probably the most sickening way to lose the lead of a Grand Prix, especially when you're fighting for a World Championship. My heart sank. I think everyone's heart sank, because the way that it was going to look then was, okay, they still had Perez in first position, Red Bull, but Lewis Hamilton was going to finish second, scoring a delightful 18 points, which would have put him 14 points then ahead of Max Verstappen in the World Championship. Now, Max's car hit the firewall, whereas Lance Stroll's accident, he hit the wall on the pits side. But because Max's car was on the far side of the track, they decided to red flag the race to recover the car, and also have a kind of look into to see what happened with the tyre, because tyre failures are never a good thing. Because Red Bull were even onto race control saying we got no warning of that tyre failure. So the race was red flagged for a good 20-25 minutes. And it was decided, yes, well, it was a bit up in the air, because at this rate there was only 3 laps left, so they could have just ended it there rather than doing a restart, which means there would have been a lap count back, which means Max actually would have still technically won the race, because he technically would have been still in the lead when they did the count back. But they decided they were going to do a race restart and finish the last 3 laps of the race. Well, 2 technically after the formation, the extra formation lap they had to do to restart the race, because they did a standing start. Which, part of me was like, I wish it would have been nice. It would have been poetic justice for Max to at least kept the win that he so deserved. Even though it was his car that caused the red flag, it certainly wasn't his fault that the tyre failed. And there will definitely be an investigation warranted about the Pirelli tyres and why they failed so spectacularly. In around, like, Lance Stroll's tyres had 30 laps on them when they failed, and Max's had 32 laps. And they should have been well able for a lot more than that, according to the data anyway. But anyway, they did decide to restart the race, and it was a standing start. So the restart was, I'm going to have to go back through the order, because it's hard to quite work out how everything played out. But it was, so Perez, Hamilton, Vettel, Gasly, Leclerc, and I'll have to have a quick flick through the results to get the rest of the grid, because it's all very chaotic and it's only just finished, so I'm a bit all over the shop. Now, Sebastian Vettel, because he didn't get into Q3 yesterday, he had a spare set of brand new soft tyres. So part of me was like, well, maybe Seb might be able to pull a bonsai and pull off a race win here, but as I'll now discuss, that didn't quite happen. But the start happened, and Lewis Hamilton, fair play to him, had an incredible start. Perez went to go and block him off, but Hamilton's start, he just had enough straight line speed to get ahead of Perez. But Hamilton locked up and went straight on at the first turn down the escape road, and the whole grid passed him by. So Lewis Hamilton, with a giant opportunity to get the championship lead back and take a commanding lead in the championship, threw it all away on the first corner of the restart, finishing last and taking up no points. So Max Verstappen kind of got off the hook in that sense. He still keeps his lead in the championship, and a complete damaged imitation there for Max. Lewis Hamilton did him the biggest favour, which is not something you usually get from a championship rival. So that left then Sergio Perez, who must have been counting his lucky stars when he saw Lewis Hamilton go straight ahead at the first corner. So it was all then down to Perez to make up for Red Bull's terrible day and manage to turn around and make it into one of the best days. Sebastian Vettel didn't quite have the pace for over a couple of laps to try and challenge Perez for the win, but I think Aston Martin and Sebastian Vettel were very, very happy to take second place, considering they qualified outside the top 10. And Sebastian's taken a few races to get comfortable in Aston Martin, and he had a good race in Monaco. Now he's followed up with an even better race in Baku, and taking his first podium since 2019, and the first podium finish for Aston Martin Formula 1. And then probably the most exciting bit then to the flag was the battle for third place, and it was between Pierre Gasly and Charles Leclerc, who were both they're good friends off the track, technically both French, although Charles Leclerc is obviously a Monegasque. They went wheel to wheel for the restart lap, switching positions back and forth. But fair play to Pierre Gasly, really showing his talent after the last couple of years where he was brought into Red Bull, demoted back to Toro Rosso / AlphaTauri, losing one of his best friends, Antoine Hubert, in 2019. But he's just come back strong. He also had that one race win in Monza last year, and now he's followed it up with some great points finishes all season and taking a podium that I don't think he was expecting to grab when he went to bed last night. But what a podium. Sergio Perez, a current Red Bull driver, Sebastian Vettel, Sergio Perez, a Red Bull driver who was technically sacked by Racing Point, who are now Aston Martin, to be replaced by the person who's finished second, Sebastian Vettel. But Sergio Perez, a former Red Bull driver, a current Red Bull driver, Sebastian Vettel, a previous Red Bull driver who was somewhat sacked by Ferrari, and Pierre Gasly, who was a Red Bull driver, technically still is a Red Bull driver, driving for AlphaTauri, who was also demoted by his team. So yeah, what an interesting podium. So I'll rattle through the entire grid there just to wrap up how that race went, as I'm still kind of digesting it. So Esteban Ocon, he was the first retirement from the race, had an engine failure, and then Lance Stroll was next with that crash and that first tyre failure of the race. So they were the only two retirements of the race, actually. Well, technically, obviously Verstappen, he retired as well, but he still registered in 18th. But yeah, obviously he crashed out. George Russell is down in 17th. Did he retire from the race? I'm not 100% sure why George Russell's down in 17th there. He's 3 laps down. So did he not take the restart? I'm not 100% sure what happened to George Russell, but he's registered as 17th and 3 laps down. So that makes me think he didn't take the restart. I'm not sure what that's all about. I'll have to follow that up. Nicholas Latifi, the last of the finishers, but he also had to take a 10-second stop-go penalty at the restart because he didn't come through the pit lane when the red flags came out, because for some reason his engineer told him to stay out, which was very odd. So that was a bit of a slam dunk from Williams, but I don't think Nicholas Latifi would have managed to do anything better than that. Lewis Hamilton 15th from second place and a potential to take the championship lead again. He will be ruining that. And he came on the radio afterwards about something about the magic button was left on or some shit. I think it might have been something to do with brake warming or tyre warming on the formation lap, and he forgot to turn it off, and that may have been the reason why he had that lock up. But yeah, a bad day at the office for Lewis Hamilton, but as I said, that mistake from him, thankfully, keeps the championship very exciting, and not only that, it keeps Red Bull in the lead, because this definitely is one of the stronger tracks for Red Bull and one of the tracks that Merc seem to be struggling at. So yeah, them taking a haul of points and Red Bull losing out on points would have been a very, very bad scenario for the championship. But yeah, Red Bull kind of caught a break despite the tragedy, and Lewis Hamilton really threw it away. Nikita Mazepin finished 14th. Yeah, he was, if things had been all normal, he definitely would have been last of the finishers. And Schumacher, although ahead of him in 13th, was comfortably ahead of him pace-wise. Bottas was 10th for most of the race. Somehow he managed to drop down to 12th. I'd have to look into that, but a crap weekend from Bottas. As he qualified poorly. Mercedes didn't exactly give him any helping hand. They kind of used him to try and help Hamilton, which, fair enough, that's basically what his job title is. But yeah, to finish outside the points without any clear indication as to why, that's not great from Bottas and Mercedes. Outside of the points with no clear issues, but again, I'll have to look into that to be sure. Giovinazzi down 11th. I'd say he'll be kind of annoyed with that, but he did put it in the walls in qualifying. But yeah, I'd say he could have probably picked up points, especially with a messy race. But on the restart, he did tag the back of Daniel Ricciardo on the restart, which probably didn't help proceedings. Kimi Räikkönen finishing 10th, who's been a bit lacklustre the last couple of races. He's been outperformed by Giovinazzi, but picking up a point for Alfa Romeo. I think that might be his first points this season, possibly. Danny Rick finishing 9th. I think he'll be okay with that. And again, his qualifying was dreadful, although overall he wasn't too far away from Norris all weekend, but still some work to do for Danny Rick. But at least he picked up a couple of points. Especially this morning we found out Mansur Ogier, who was one of the big stakeholders in McLaren, the whole McLaren group. And he's the lead shareholder of TAG Group, who are then big shareholders of McLaren, along with the Bahraini royal family and other stakeholders. But yeah, he was a big influence in the rebuilding of McLaren in the 80s and 90s. But he passed away quite unexpectedly, only in his 60s. So for McLaren to pick up some points on a tragic weekend, I imagine they'll take that. They would have wanted better, but not the worst weekend for Ricciardo and for McLaren. But thoughts with them and Mansur Ogier's friends and family. Bit of a tragedy there outside of the racetrack itself. Who else was now then? Sainz finished 8th, which I think he'll be okay with because he didn't have a great qualifying. I can't remember exactly where he qualified, possibly 6th or 7th, but he when he pitted for his hard tyres on his outlap, he locked up the front and went down the escape road at turn 2 or 3, I think it was. Or was it the turns before the castle? Anyway, he had a lock up and dropped himself a good few places. So he probably could have been slightly further up the order, but to pick up a few points again after a messy race, I think he'll be relatively happy with that. Tsunoda, fair play to him. He had a strong race, picking up another haul of points for AlphaTauri. Held it together in the first time he's ever been in Baku. And yeah, not a bad result. Again, I'm sure he'll have wanted more considering where his teammate finished, but he won't be complaining with that, and nor will his employers. And then good old two-time world champion El Matador himself, Fernando Alonso, finishing 6th and picking up a nice haul of points for Alpine. I think they might be his first points of the season, but yeah, Alonso seems to be settling into Alpine now, and Alpine didn't have great pace this weekend, so for them to finish 6th, that's great. And Alonso showing why he is as respected as he deserves to be. Lando Norris finishing 5th, which isn't too bad considering he got that 3-place grid penalty, but he managed to hold his own. In 5th, he was in with a shouting distance of 3rd place. That battle between Leclerc and Gasly, but I think he settled for 5th. Decent set of points. I think that should handily keep him at 3rd in the championship, unless Perez jumped him now with the points he's taken in today. But yeah, not a bad day at the office for Norris. And again, obviously McLaren having a bit of a tragic weekend. I think they'll be relatively happy with how that played out. Charles Leclerc, he might have taken 3rd, which would be nice to have him on the podium after his terrible luck he had at his home race in Monaco, and the fact that he would start it on pole position. But yeah, not a bad day at the office for Leclerc. A good dose of points that he really needs, and not a bad day at the office for Ferrari in general. But I think he'll be still ruining that he wasn't on that podium. But then we have the podium places. Pierre Gasly, absolutely delighted with his performance. He really did. He took the maximum that I think he and the team could have gotten this weekend. Another trophy for his shelf. He's slowly but surely collecting them. He's got one from Brazil 2019, Monza last year with a race win, and now he has this one for 3rd place in Baku. I think he might have got another 2nd place as well from Ross. But anyway, what a good resurgence Pierre Gasly has been having after all his troubles and stripes he's had over the last couple of years. It's great to see. He's really showing some great mental strength. And Sebastian Vettel, 2nd place, and it's great to see happy, well-performing Seb again. He is delighted with himself, and so are the team. and a well-deserved second. Again, might have looked like he might have been able to take a bit of a last gap for the race win, but yes, he will be happy to be back up on a podium after a torrid final year with Ferrari and a few races to get settled into Aston Martin. He showed why he's a 4-time world champion and why he gets paid mega bucks and why Aston Martin took a punt on him. And they will be going to bed tonight feeling very happy with themselves with how that all played out. And then congratulations to Sergio Perez taking the race win for Red Bull, taking a haul of points away from Mercedes, which means I think Red Bull are now 30 points possibly ahead of ahead of Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship. And Perez showing why Red Bull took the punt on him this year. And they needed a teammate that could really work well with Max. They stayed close enough to Max, take points away from their rivals, and that's exactly what he did today. Max didn't finish the race, and he managed to do then the next best thing and take the win for the team. And he will be a very happy boy this evening. And it's great to see Perez taking another win, because it could have been that one race when he had a Racing Point last year may have been the only one he took in his career. But this second chance he's getting with his stint at Red Bull has started to pay dividends, and he's showing why he's such a sought after commodity in the driver market. And I think Red Bull will be very happy with their decision to take him on after what's happened today. I'm going to stop rambling now, and I'm sure I've made some mistakes and things I need to correct, but I wanted to get this out while it's all fresh in my mind and the excitement is still buzzing. So if you haven't watched the race, I'd fully recommend it, and if you did, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'll probably be back again during the week with a normal version of the podcast, but until then, stay safe, stay well, I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.